Hello and welcome. This is the Scrape the Planet course. My name is Mitchell Edwards, though I frequently go by Viking Sec or Viking Dev or just Viking Online. I'm an information security researcher, developer, cigar aficionado, powerlifter, and as of this course for the very first time, an online course creator. I've been making course-related content for quite a while now, like off and on, but this is my first, really hammering it in, formal course. This is the first of hopefully many of those that I'll be creating on Udemy and elsewhere, and it's on a subject that's very near and dear to my heart. I've been developing scrapers and spiders and web data collection programs for years now, both in my personal life on side gigs and side projects and just kind of entrepreneurial stuff, as well as in my formal day job. This has included, some scrapers that have detected online censorship on Chinese social media sites, to chasing dark web bad guys across the internet trying to figure out what they're doing, to right-wing extremist research, trying to figure out exactly where the extremists are congregating, what they're saying, what they're talking about, and whether or not they're talking about doing something violent. So I've really just developed scrapers for all kinds of stuff. Recently, I've started developing scrapers for financial data, both in stocks and cryptocurrency, to kind of wrap my brain around that whole world. And I've developed a couple for weather data and things like that, just gathering the day's weather, trying to figure out what I need to wear in the morning. So that's kind of one of the points that I'll get into in later chapters, is that you can develop scrapers to do anything, and I've had years of experience doing this, mostly using Python, though I've started using JavaScript quite a bit as well. But this course is going to focus on really, really becoming an expert in developing web scrapers in Python. We're going to be focusing on two different kinds of scrapers, normal scrapers and spiders. We'll get more into that in a later section. But yeah, it's all in Python. If you don't know any Python, that's not a big deal. I'll get a little bit more into the prerequisites later, but you basically don't need any. It helps a whole lot if you already know Python. So in the description of this video, I'm going to share a couple of free resources that you can go to kind of get up to speed on Python, learn the basics before you jump into this course. They're going to be free. I'm not going to require you to sign up for another course. That's kind of lame. So, like I said, this is the Scrape the Planet course for building web scrapers in Python. I'm sure you already read the description before you bought it, I hope. Hopefully you didn't just drop however much this course is being sold for on Udemy without reading the description. But just in case you didn't, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover from a high level, and then we'll explain the specifics in later chapters. Web scraping is huge. It's like a multi-million, probably billion-dollar industry. It's a big industry. It's part of big data. And what big data is at its very core, and there's lots of science behind it, and I'm not a big data expert, but what big data really is it's the analysis, storage, and collection of lots of data. Sometimes you have customers who are creating that data. So if you've got a web app, and on that web app, your customers are doing things, and that's kind of creating data, then you've already got the data. You don't really need to collect it. But a lot of times, somebody else is going to have data that you need, whether it's a social media site that's got posts that you're interested in, or a financial site that's got stock ticker data or crypto data that you're interested in, or all kinds of different stuff. Somebody else has got the data that you want. You need to develop a collection platform for it. That's what web scraping really is. Scraping and spidering, we're going to use those a little bit interchangeably right now, but later on we're going to get into the difference between the two and different situations where you need to develop either a spider or a scraper. So web scraping is the kind of I'm not going to say foundational, because you don't really need web scraping for all big data projects, but it can be very foundational. It can make you a very, very well-needed, very, very important part of any kind of big data project. So web scraping is just the usually automated collection of data that somebody else has normally. Sometimes it's internal data, but most of the time you're trying to get somebody else's data. Developing scrapers can be as simple as just a one-line bash script that, let's say grabs weather data off of your local weather station. Or it can be thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of code written in Python, JavaScript, C, C++, Go, probably tons of other languages. So it can really kind of scale up and down, and we're going to kind of do a couple of simple projects, and we're going to do a couple of like larger scale projects, but they're all going to stay relatively small, especially compared to what you'll probably see in the private sector. My favorite section of the entire course is probably going to be the section on spiders. We're going to develop a really cool spider that's going to gather data from IMDb, which is a movie database site, and we're going to use that to solve the Kevin Bacon problem, which is very interesting, even though it sounds kind of weird. That's like by far my favorite part of this whole course, and it took forever to develop, but it is a lot of fun. I put a lot of emphasis on intelligent scraper design, and we're going to go a little bit into what scraper design is, how to design scrapers well, and how to design them very badly. But that means that there's going to be a lot of whiteboarding. I've got a little drawing tablet down here that I'm going to use to kind of explain these topics from kind of like a, like a ground level up without really jumping into the code just right off the bat. That being said, the foundation of this whole course is actually writing the code and developing these scrapers yourself. We're not going to just be whiteboarding, and we're not going to just be coding. I think it's important to understand the design concepts of scrapers before you jump right into them, but you also kind of need to get your feet wet. The best way to learn any kind of new coding or new technology is to actually do it yourself. And that's the greatest part about software development, is the experimentation part is very easy. You can kind of do it from your PJs. So let's talk about the real like nitty gritty, what we're going to get into each section. In the first section, obviously, this is just the introduction. We're going to, kind of skip through this fairly quickly. I think this is only going to be one video, so you don't have to look at my ugly mug the whole time. The second section, we're going to talk about what scrapers and spiders are, what different kinds of scrapers and spiders are out there, what you can actually do with scrapers and spiders, and one of the most important chapters in this entire class is on the ethics and legality of scrapers. Scraper development, using scrapers operationally, all of that. I'm going to say this 1,000 times up until that section, but I'm giving you the gift of knowledge. I'm telling you how to develop these things. I'm teaching you how to develop these things. Once you gain that knowledge, what you decide to do with it is up to you. I hope that you'll stick through the entire course and watch section 6, which is going to be a call to action to kind of tell you what good you can do in the world with scrapers and spiders. But there is the potential for abuse out there. So if you decide to use this stuff in a way that gets you in trouble, if you decide to do it unintentionally or intentionally, I'm not going to take responsibility for that. I've warned you now. I'm going to warn you 3 or 4 times up until the section that we have on ethics and legality of scraper development. And throughout that entire section, I'm going to talk about the different legal and ethical risks that you can get into. So do not skip that section. Please, even more important than all of the design sections, don't skip that one. Section 3, we're going to talk about the very foundations of writing scrapers. We're going to look at some HTML, and then we're going to jump right into the requests and beautiful soup libraries. This is literally the 2 libraries that you need to know in order to build scrapers. You probably don't need that much else on top of that. But we'll go through a couple of other libraries, but the core foundational ones are the requests and beautiful soup libraries. We'll jump into those in section 3. We're very, very quickly going to jump right into our first scraper after that. We're going to build a scraper, a very basic one for IMDb, which, like I said, is that internet movie database. Yeah, internet movie database site. We're going to be doing a lot on that, and we're going to be doing a lot on Yahoo Finance. So we're going to jump into our very first scraper for IMDb. We're going to do a couple of scrapers for Yahoo Finance as well in section 3. And then in section 4, my favorite section of the entire class, we're going to jump into spider development. It's going to be a big project. The Kevin Bacon project, you could probably search it up on Wikipedia or just, Google it, and you can find out a little bit more about that. But the Kevin Bacon's, chapter, the whole project that we're going to go through, is a perfect application of spiders, and to learn what spiders do and why they're so much more powerful potentially than just normal simple scrapers. So we're going to talk a little bit about spiders in that section, section 4, and then section 5. This is going to be a little bit more of a whiteboard heavy chapter. We're going to do a bit of coding and kind of display some of the more advanced concepts behind spider and scraper development. but there's going to be a bit of design work where you can really take your simple spiders and make them way more powerful, way faster, way more efficient, and just in general, like they can solve some incredible problems like that. So that's going to be the section that we talk about a little bit more advanced topics. I would definitely recommend not skipping straight ahead to that unless you've kind of already got your feet wet in scrapers and developed some in the real world. But yeah, section 5 is going to be really cool. We're going to talk about multi-threading. We're going to be talking about more advanced like queues and prioritizing queues and things like that for spiders. And then in section 6, the final section, it's going to be kind of a feel-good section. You can pat yourself on the back and you can look back at what you've learned. And I'm going to tell you what you can do in the future with spiders, scrapers, all of that. I'm going to tell you what you can do in your own free time, kind of like for passion projects. That's like most of the spiders and scrapers I've developed have been passion projects. So thank you so much for joining me for this course, whether you're joining me on Udemy or you're joining me on YouTube once I make this course for free. Probably, if you're watching this on Udemy and you kind of want to spread the word, and there's some people who are a little bit more hesitant about paying whatever the course is valued at, I am going to eventually release this course for free. I'm putting a hard date of 6 months past the release date to release it for free on YouTube, and there are a couple of reasons behind that. One, I kind of feel like whatever money I end up making from this course, I'm probably going to have made it by 6 months from now. The kind of drop off on Udemy courses is pretty significant. You make most of your money within the first like 3 to 6 months. So I'm not super worried about like continuing to make like $10 a month on this course on Udemy. The most important thing though is I want this knowledge to be accessible. I'm releasing it on Udemy first so that I can kind of recoup some of the time and effort that I've put into it and to kind of develop it into its own like kind of revenue stream. But at the end of the day, I really want this to be accessible. So eventually I'm going to release this on YouTube. It's going to be no later than 6 months from the release date on Udemy. And yeah, that's really about it. If you've got any of your friends who, they would love to take the course, but they need a discount, tell them to reach out to me, or they can wait, that 6 months until I release it for free. Thank you so much for joining me on this course. I really hope that you're going to learn a lot from it and that this course is going to serve as like a stepping stone to build some really cool things in the future.